We're continuing our conversation with Democratic State Representative Ron Reynolds about leaving Austin to try to stop an election reform bill. And Representative, since you are one of those 26 Texas Democrats still there in Washington, D.C., how do you feel about those four of your colleagues who did return to Austin and did go back onto the floor of the Capitol?
David, I was very disappointed that they obviously had their own reasons for doing so, and I respect my colleagues, but personally, I thought it was a mistake because we hadn't finished our efforts with Congress. I think that we should not, for any reason, compromise on this voter suppression legislation. And there is no incentive for me to make a quorum when Governor Abbott doesn't value Texas voters in protecting our fundamental right to vote. And then moreover, he doesn't add things like Medicaid expansion to the call, where we lead the nation in the number of uninsured. He doesn't add fixing the grid to the call. He doesn't add so many things to the call that would help Texans. He does things that will hurt Texans. With the exception of the 13th check, I'm very disappointed with this agenda. Looking at critical race theory, where you can't teach children that the KKK was morally wrong, banning teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech and other things. So there's so many things that are harmful. Another bail reform bill, another abortion restriction, taking away a woman's right to choose, emphasis on the border wall. There's so many things that are nothing but divisive red meat for a primary. I think that we need to be focused on the big issues. And so for my colleagues to go back, I was just disappointed. But again, they have to answer to their constituents just like I do. We're all elected officials that are accountable to our constituents. So they're going to have to answer that. My constituents overwhelmingly have supported me being here because they know I've articulated the reason why I'm here over and over again. So they know that I'm here to preserve and protect democracy. So they have to answer to their constituents why they made that decision. Our Democratic caucus overwhelmingly is breaking quorum, and only a few have decided to cross over and go back to Austin. They'll have to answer to that, but I'm personally disappointed.
You hinted a little bit at the answer to this next question, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you think there's a path to compromise on any of those high-profile bills, the election reform bill, transgender kids, critical race theory, et cetera?
There are some things that we did compromise on the critical race theory bill. I still voted against it, but the House made some concessions and the Senate wanted to strip them out, and they lost on a technicality, on a point of order, and the governor added it back to the call. So I don't think there's any more compromise. They want to make it worse, and you can't put lipstick on a pig when it comes to the voting rights bill. I mean, a bad bill is a bad bill. I don't know how to make it a better bill. Unless they take some major provisions out. So we like to compromise. We want to compromise. We made some progress from the first quorum break that during the regular session where they didn't bring back the souls to the polls and lower the standard to invalidate an election. So there was some progress made because we did break quorum, and I hope that we can make more progress. So we'd like to negotiate, but they have basically made it clear that they don't want to negotiate. They want to ram it down our throats. And so, I like to work across the aisle because I think that is what makes good government, when both sides come to the table with an open mind, an open debate, an open dialogue. But I haven't seen that from my Republican colleagues. So I think the chances of that are slim. I'd like to see us hit the reset button, but I know that they're upset that we're breaking quorum, and we're upset that they are continuing to press forward with the big lie. So we're basically at an impasse.
We'll wrap our conversation with Representative Reynolds in 2 minutes. I'll ask him what comes next and what do you think the odds are of this stalemate ending anytime soon.